I wanted to make this video very clear. What does it take for Top Gear to actually destroy this thing? Top Gear has destroyed many different things, but the one thing they failed to destroy was this: a red 1988 Toyota Hilux single cab truck, or simply referred as the name Toyota Hilux. The Toyota Hilux is known to be one of the most well-engineered Toyota vehicles in history. Beginning in 1968 all the way towards the present, the Toyota Hilux is known for one thing alone: being an unkillable machine. Today we are diving into the lore of the Top Gear Toyota Hilux. Let's start with a little history of the Toyota Hilux. The Toyota Hilux originally started as a single cab truck in the mid 1960s. By the time the Toyota Hilux has evolved with an extra cab and double cab configuration body types, this Toyota Hilux was particularly known as the 4th gen Toyota Hilux, which was used in the British TV auto series called Top Gear. Jeremy Clarkson and the others decided to do one thing. What does it take to murder a Toyota Hilux? And it was actually quite impossible. They first started by driving down the stairs. They then second-handedly tried to drown it at the beach. Then they decided to smash the Hilux's front bumper with a tree. Then they decided to do one other thing. They drove it straight through a shed, then dropped a caravan, and then the next thing was drown it and soak it with almost every impossibility that comes its way. And in fact, the next thing they tried to do was light the truck in flames, but that didn't stop it either. And then the next was the impossible thing possible: toppled the Toyota Hilux while strapped it to a building. They later let the building explode while strapping the Toyota Hilux right onto the rooftop. And guess what? After all of that extreme punishment, the Toyota Hilux survived. And what did Top Gear never even told you this was actually quite simple. In fact, Top Gear actually explains that Toyota Hilux is basically indestructible. It can't die, or it doesn't fail. Literally, this 45-year-old truck is impossible to break. In fact, what makes it so unbreakable compared to what other vehicles are? Although many vehicles in Top Gear get destroyed, one vehicle is just not meant to be broken, and that's the Hilux. But there is one question in everyone's minds, actually was longing in their minds. Why does the Toyota Hilux cannot actually die if other vehicles just break down and fail? Well, here's your simple answer. The answer to this is the independent constructed ladder frame. What is an independent ladder frame? Well, it's kind of like this. A ladder frame is a strong sheet metal frame that is so built rock solid that if you try to hit the truck from below or try to hit it directly onto its roof, the frame doesn't actually bend or break. In fact, the frame is so solid that the vehicle has to be constructed with leaf springs and a solid rear axle. If you guys remember the Toyota Land Cruiser, the Toyota Land Cruiser was outfitted with a solid rear axle and an independent ladder frame. The reason why choosing a ladder frame for a Toyota Hilux is simple. The frame is so built solid into the drive shaft that it makes the vehicle stay stable without even breaking any single piece. And in fact, that concept of using ladder frames actually makes the solid build of the Toyota Hilux. But then there was also this one crucial effect: rusting. Since the Toyota Hilux of Top Gear was basically just naturally aspirated, there's no turbo, no supercharger or whatever. It's just a basic diesel powered vehicle that was picked up from the farmyard. According to what Jeremy Clarkson said in the beginning of the video, the Toyota Hilux was not dead. And in fact, they tried several trials, such as drowning the vehicle at the beach, crushing it by caravan, and then they did the most unthinkable. They actually decided to hit the Toyota Hilux with a wrecking ball. And guess what? The wrecking ball, it didn't do anything. It just thumps directly into the car. And the car, it wasn't even dead. Although the vehicle was severely damaged, the vehicle was still drivable. And guess what? After all of that brutal punishment, that Toyota Hilux can still run. Imagine that. If you would find the Top Gear Toyota Hilux for just about 45 years ago, since that video was made in 2004 when they actually destroyed the vehicle itself wasn't just a background detail in movies. In fact, the Toyota Hilux became legendary before Top Gear. And in fact, in the 1985 movie Back to the Future, the vehicle that Marty McFly now drives around in is a blacked out modified 1989 Toyota Hilux Extra Cab. And in fact, that truck is exactly the exact same model used for Top Gear, although Top Gear's indestructible Toyota Hilux is a 1988 model. The Back to the Future one was either between a 1986, 87, or a 1989 model. But the Top Gear Toyota Hilux, it basically was a year before the 1989 Toyota Hilux was born. The sudden feeling of the Toyota Hilux suddenly starting up after all of that brutal punishment, it just goes to show that Toyota never sued Top Gear. In fact, Toyota decided to embrace that concept because they knew that making good cars was part of good marketing value. And guess what? The Toyota Hilux wasn't just a truck. It wasn't just a background detail. It wasn't just a side character that blends in within the backgrounds of movie settings and movie props. It became the unsingable truck that gave the legacy in its own right. And guess what? The legacy of the Toyota Hilux in Top Gear was absolutely mind-blowing. Seeing that 45-year-old truck taking all of the beatings that most cars actually received was quite endearing. And guess what happens next? Although most vehicles get destroyed, the Toyota Hilux did not stay destroyed. It wasn't even dead. What makes the Toyota Hilux Top Gear story was far more convincing. And when Toyota found out about this, they were basically proud of themselves. And in fact, the whole timeline of the Toyota Hilux now expands not just Top Gear but every single country except the United States, who basically never used the Toyota Hilux's name and just used the category as the truck or the pickup. But since the 1990s and early 2000s and late 1990s American people actually revealed that this Toyota pickup was dubbed the Toyota Hilux, the very same vehicle that was used for Top Gear that survived all of that brutal punishment and still survived. And that is how Top Gear couldn't even imagine why this truck would still work. Thank you for watching. Make sure that you go comment, like, and subscribe. And I'll see you all next time. Bye!